So what was your experience when you first got here? Did you know you were going to get into real estate, or how did that all work?
So I was pretty intrigued by the country, just everything overall. And when coming here, I did a couple odd jobs, but in the back of my mind, I was like, oh well, people here, everybody overseas thinks, people here make money and everybody has equal opportunities. Everybody can be successful. But what I figured really quickly was that 70, whatever the numbers are, percent of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And I did a couple odd jobs and I realized this is not where I'm ever going to become successful. It's kind of a trap. So I would come home from work and Google what rich people do in America or how to become rich in America. And two things would pop up: real estate and stocks. And I had no idea what stocks were. I had no idea what real estate was. And I was here already 6 months. So I bumped into wholesaling and realized that anybody can do wholesaling without any money. But at that time, I had no idea what real estate was or nothing. So I would cold call people, probably 100 people a day, and everybody says no. Because at that time, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my script. I'm just out there trying in the blue, like just nothing is working out. But after 9 months, I do my first deal and I make $2,200, and it gave me so much confidence. I was like, wow, this works. This works. Because my wife at the time was like, what are you doing? Like, it's like this is kind of like, this even I was doubting myself after 8 9 months, no deals. I was ready to give up, but that one deal where I made $2,200 gave me confidence. And after that, I never had to do a wholesale deal because when I started listening to your podcast and other creative strategies, where I was like, shoot, I don't have to do wholesaling. I can just buy properties on my own without any money with creative financing, just by being creative. So last year I bought a 13 unit apartment building right after or right before I met you, because I had followed your that you explain on the whiteboard that your NOI, your gross income and everything, how it's supposed to be. You can later go in and refi and get your money back. I did that exact same thing, and without any money out of my pocket, and it works.
Well, what do you think was driving you, as a young man when you moved here? Was it just literally you were just trying to like survive in the beginning?
Yes, I think that was the most hard stuff for me. Was I did a couple odd jobs, and then I joined. I went to a restaurant. I became a waiter, and I was listening to Jim Rohn a lot. Jim Rohn and I found these guys and Tony Robbins, listening to real estate podcasts, probably 8 hours a day, reading all kinds of books I could read. And they would always say, like, don't ask, like, for example, what Jim Rohn says, don't ask what I'm getting, ask what am I learning, what am I becoming. And making $70 a shift, being a waiter for the 8 hour shift, that's kind of the mentality I adopted. Okay, it's not what I'm making, it's what am I becoming. And I was becoming a selling machine to the American people because I didn't have the American mentality, and I needed to learn how to relate to them. How do they talk to each other? Because when I would cold call earlier in my career, I would totally screw it up. I didn't know how to talk. I don't know how to relate. I would call them, "Oh, Sir Ken, would you be interested in selling your property?" And they would automatically have their guards up and not want to talk to me. So I think my mentality was definitely out of desperation, wanting to be financially free.
I didn't want to glaze over the fact that you use 80% of the bank's money and 20% of the seller's money, right? In
Yes.
order to buy 100% of the property. I think that's what people don't realize is that you don't need money in order to start. You need to be creative and you need to understand how the deal works, right? You want to walk us through that process because you obviously closed, I think, $5 or $6 million in the last 2 years, right?
Yes, yes. But let me tell you a deal I did earlier this year. I bought a property for $600,000. It was for 9 houses in a 5 unit apartment building. Put down $50,000. Now somebody might say, "Well, I don't have $50,000 to put down." Well, I went to a friend slash hard money lender. asked 50,000 for 12% interest for 6 months. So this guy I'm buying from, I'm putting down 50,000. He's holding the 550 note for 6 months. 6 months later, I go refinance, appraises at $973. So I get 66% loan to value, which is, or 64, 65%, which is $630,000. I pay my existing note to the seller, 550, pay my hard money lenders 53,000 with his 12% interest. I walk away with $30,000 into my pocket, never used any of my own money.
Let's just stop on that one for a second, because I want to unpack what you just said, because I think it's brilliant. First of all, you found a deal for $1 million and you knew you did not have the money to start.
Yes, I knew that. I knew I didn't have the money to start, but I knew once I get started talking to the seller, I can present him with options of LOIs.
Right. And you also knew that there was value in the property that wasn't being realized.
Yes.
So that's the important part, is that you don't actually need money. You need to know that the property you're trying to buy from the seller is worth more than you're buying it for. That's the value. Now, you haven't done it yet, but you see it, right?
Right.
Then what you did is you got your creative financing hat on, which all of us do, and you went and found the 50 grand, which I think it's brilliant that you only had to pay 6 months of interest at hard money. So basically you did this deal for like somebody else's money and you paid them 3 grand, right? Right. So 12% on 50 grand is 6,000 and you only had to pay 3, so 53 back. So the hard money person made 3 grand, you made 30 grand.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's what's important for everybody to understand. And at this point, how much money do you have in the deal?
I never had any.
Boom. This is the point. And you own $1 million plus building, right?
Infinite return. Following your
correct
footsteps.
And it cash flows like that.
Right. Well, I want to add on, I actually watched one of your videos on the inner circle and how you explain it. This is your income, your gross income, your NOI, your debt, and your cash flow. And this is how we become infinite, guys.
I know. And I think that's what people don't understand. I mean, you started with $200 and you put this deal together with a willing seller. Now, let's don't make it sound so easy. How many calls and how many people did you have to get hung up on, no's, all that stuff in order to get to that point?
Make it simple. Let's stick with this deal. So I make him an offer. He's 90 years old. And first he goes, well, I'll do a 5-year note and let's do it. Then he goes, I'm going to talk to my accountant and see what he thinks. And my attorney, he goes to them and they tell him, well, you're 90, you don't do 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Then he comes back to me and tells me that's what they said. We're not doing any notes. I want my money up front now. He said, he hung up. We didn't talk. I went home and I thought about it. What can I do to make this work? It was very disappointing. Called him up again. Hey, how about you do 12 months instead of 60 months? He's like, no. I don't want to do that. And then how about you do 6 months? He said, okay, well, let's do it.
I think it's important to know that the deal was on and off.
Yes. It was on and
that's
off.
Very normal, right? Where things go like this. Things aren't just buttoned up and perfectly, so there's a lot of no's.